Welcome to The Open Door with Kelly
and Kelly,
brought to you by Collective Creations
and Legendary Living Arts.
Each week, join us for discussions on spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical health with guests from all walks of life.
We invite you to connect. So welcome, Elke, to our show today. I'm so delighted to have you on because we met, was it 2010, I think, at a Romance Writers of America conference, their annual conference, right?
That's exactly right.
That's a long time ago now.
It was. I was just looking at it today. I was like, oh my gosh, I've known her for over 10 years.
That's crazy.
It's flown by.
Yeah. Well, in some ways, yeah. I mean, because both of us have had life changes and, things like that and, writing careers and doing different things. And, it's wonderful to be able to keep up on social media. But like we were just chatting before we started recording that I really don't know everything that you're doing, right? Because we see snippets of it on social media, but we don't know everything. So it's so wonderful to have you.
I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for extending me the invitation. I know that it's kind of one of those things. You sent it, and I've just been like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I'm like, okay, I've got to do it because just if nothing else, to just catch up and see how you're doing. So I'm so glad for the invite, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, well, that's excellent. So you've been an author for how long then?
I've been an author for 10 years now.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah, I just realized that today.
Yeah, or a published author for 10 years, or have you, because you've probably been writing way before that, I would bet.
Oh, yeah. I like to joke. I date myself when I say I got my first typewriter. When I was 9, my parents gave me one for my 9th birthday, and I wrote my first story on it when I was 12. So I've been writing for a long time, but I didn't become a published author until 10 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. And what was your first book? Was it for the love of jazz or something like
that? That's it.
I think. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that one was actually traditionally published. And then after that, I kind of went the self-publishing route.
Right. Now, do you mainly write romance? Like, is that your genre? That's where you...
It is at the moment. I write specifically romantic suspense with a paranormal twist.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But no vampire or werewolves. Everybody thinks that when I say paranormal. But I really want to branch into other genres. Like this year, I'm working on a nonfiction book because I also do coaching. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited about that. There's definitely other genres that I want to branch into. To be honest, too many to mention. But I'm trying to sort of figure out the best way to go. I definitely do not want to write under different names. So I'm trying to sort of figure out what is the best way to kind of keep my audience and still attract new audience without upsetting my current audience. So I'm working through that at the moment to see how I'm going to make that work.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because I know I started writing in a new genre and everybody asks like, well, what is it? And it has a historical sort of context, but it wouldn't really be historical. It's more fantasy because it has like those paranormal elements, but it's more about the magic and just like the spirit realm or that there's other dimension, like things like that. So I'm not really sure what to categorize it at the moment. But for me, I know I chose a pen name, which was Kelly Cameron, for the erotic romance that I write and the other romance. And then the last couple of years, because I've mostly at that time, I think there was a lot, like I remember getting into the romance genre and there was a lot of blow up sometimes about people who write romance and were ostracized in their communities and things like that. And so I wanted to kind of separate that part of my life from my children. And I was very careful about who I told, what I did. And I think at some point it was sort of the hiding feeling for me that I'm tired of hiding what I do. My kids got older. I didn't really need to, they always knew that I wrote romance, but then they could find out like what I wrote. And now they're like, should I read it? I'm like, well, I don't know if you want to read that from me, But I got kind of tired of hiding, and on social media, I changed my name back to Winsonowich, which is my real last name. And then so I still have both but sometimes people are confused if they don't know that I've changed the name. They're like,
Mm,
well, who are you? And I'm like, well, I knew you for a long time as this name. And then,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, and I know quite a few authors that do that. They write under different under different pen names because they write different genres. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's challenging enough trying to promote myself under one name. I can't even begin to imagine doing it under more than one name.
right.
So I do know some writers that have done nonfiction and fiction, and they've kept their name, which is kind of what I've done, and what I'm going to continue to do. But yeah, it's very interesting. So I'm trying to maneuver it. And I can so relate to what you said about trying to fit into a genre, because I started a series, 3-book series, and I kind of pegged it as, um, what was it? Contemporary romance with a, spiritual undertones,
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
didn't know, and I've sort of searched and trying to figure out what it was, but it's kind of one of those things where, I'm exploring my own sort of spiritual journey and
Yeah.
all the elements that go with it, empaths, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And there's not really a genre for that. So I've kind of backed off of that, and I'm focusing on another romantic suspense and
Yeah.
finishing that off until I kind of figure out how I'm going to make this other series work. So, like I said, it's been an but interesting journey, but I'll be honest with you, I'm really enjoying it.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I know for me, because my journey changed so much when you're talking about like your own spiritual journey, and
Mm,
like that's what our podcast was about. We started it because a couple years ago, we had people that came to our meditation class and discussion classes, and we talked about all kinds of things. And they said, if you made some of these discussions into a podcast, like I tell everybody to listen to them. And then we thought about it, like, do we want to do that? Like,
yeah.
I don't know, like who wants to listen to that? But we have, we've got a little audience that is kind of all around the world. So we thought, well, why not? I mean, everybody starts somewhere, and we've just really been enjoying it. And even in my erotic romance, there's that spiritual element, if you want to call it that, but it's more of self-responsibility and being able to communicate with people. And
Mm,
so even though it's erotica or erotic romance, whatever you want to call it, there is that
yeah.
element of I want those people to be responsible for themselves and not
Right.
completely lose themselves in another person. So,
Mm,
I don't know how popular that is. I mean, I still sell books like here and there.
yeah.
All my books,
Yeah.
I don't sell a ton of them at once, but I enjoy doing it. And,
Yeah.
I'm enjoying writing in a new genre and having new stories to tell. And I know, as an author that there's always stories that have so
Mm.
many things you want to tell.
Oh, absolutely. And they keep coming at you. And then it's kind of like, especially when it's a different genre, it's like, okay, how are my fans going to respond to this if I write this? This is such a great story. I want to write it. But yeah, it's definitely, those stories don't stop.
Yeah. Well, and I know there's been a few authors that have even started out in romance and then
Mhm.
changed to another genre and really found success because I think they found their voice and that
Right.
story really, or their way of storytelling really
Hmm.
just resonated with people. I know quite a few
Right.
authors who did that. And so that's what I think for me. It's like, well, I have had some moderate success doing this. What if I tried
Hmm.
something else? You
Yeah.
know?
I agree. Because as writers, I think, people think, oh, well, you find one genre and you stick to it. But the truth is we're like artists, like, we evolve as we
Yeah.
write different stories and different genres and different ideas that come to us. And in the end, like you said, it's really about finding your voice in those stories that really click with you and your audience. So
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to that.
That's excellent. So you said you're a coach. Like, are you talking about a writing coach? Like, is that something that you do or?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's so funny. I struggled with what to class myself as.
Yeah.
Because
Don't worry. Yeah.
yeah, because for me, how I help fiction writers is who I basically focus on. Is I don't necessarily help them with the nitty gritty of developing the story and reviewing the plot and the characters and all that. That's not really what I do.
Hmm.
What I help them with, which I love, is basically how to actually get started with the book, how to finish it, what are all the steps that you're going to need to do
Right.
after that, and kind of help them walk through that process. And that's actually something that I enjoy doing. I don't enjoy, because I get people all the time, oh, can you edit my book? Can you? And I do not. I don't even like editing my own book.
Yeah.
So it's that part of the process I really figured out very early in the process. I didn't enjoy doing it. So just like with my writing and finding my sweet spot, that's been my sweet spot with coaching.
That's great.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people that say, oh, I wish I could write a book. And I think everybody could. But it's also having that discipline, right? To sit down and go from beginning to end. And sometimes we have a really good idea at the beginning, but we don't know where it's supposed to go. And that's great that you've developed these uh, courses or workshop, or is it that you could just coach people one on one?
It's a combination. I offer like one-to-one coaching for those who want specifically just me one-to-one with them and they have a specific need. And then also I do live workshops and also online courses. So I have one online course at the moment that I'm offering, but I'll be honest with you, I've got about 10 that I'm lining up ready to launch.
That's great.
So yeah, it's kind of one of those things. I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to things like that. Like I want to make sure that it's perfect and it's right. And I've had my own coach helping me work through that and just say, okay, it's never going to be perfect. It's just like your book, right? And you just have to put it in there, put it out there, and then you can change it and develop it and make it better as you go. So that's kind of what's helped me.
So are these workshops like are these what you teach like live to people, or because you do some of that, but are these courses things that people can download?
Yeah, the course itself is a do it yourself. So you
Okay.
basically pay for the course, you go through, and it's video. And then I'm a crazy fanatic, checklist, workbooks. So I love that. So I love creating stuff like that to kind of help guide them through the content as they're going through the, whether it's an online course or whether it's actually the workshop as well too. And a lot of the workshops and I have had courses in the past are basically to help you to create a writing routine that actually fits your life. Because I find a lot of times that's why writers struggle, especially new writers. They're trying to write like Stephen King or write like Nora Roberts or write like this. And not that it's a bad thing to try all those different types of writing routines, but often it doesn't really either fit their life or fits their personality or just their style, right? So that's one of the courses that I used to offer as well as coaching. And then another one is what I like to call How to Write the Damn Book, which is actually group coaching, because it's kind of one of those things. How do I write this damn book, right?
How many of us have been through that?
Exactly. And that basically takes you through creating your routine, how to, I created what I call a story Bible that helps them to outline the book before they start writing and also as they're writing. For those who don't like outlining, I have two different processes because some people don't like to outline. So I have a shorter sort of process for that. And then sort of how to write your book from start to finish sequentially. But it does allow flexibility because as much as I'm an outliner and I like to write in sequence, that doesn't always happen like that for every story.
Yeah, that's true.
So so I try to build in flexibility for that, and then also how to self-edit. And I have a 4-part workbook that takes you through how to self-edit your book, as well as how to work with a not a publisher, with an editor, those kind of things, beta readers. So yeah, all those little sort of what I like to call behind the scenes stuff that they don't tell you when you're writing a book.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I know that's something that when we went to that conference where I met you, that there are so many good courses on plotting or even just how, if you're not a plotter, I think the term they used to use, I don't know if they still do, is pantser or something, fly by the seat of your pants. But, cause I would like overplot and then I'd start writing and my story would just sort of take on this life of its own. And I thought, I'm spending all this time doing something I'm not even following. Why don't I just write it and then figure out how to put it together after, right? Because I
Right.
think people can get so stuck on, well, it has to be this process, but everyone's
Right.
process is different and it will
Ex-
change too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what I try to encourage people, whether they're pantsers or whether they're plotters. There are different options, and you don't have to feel like you have to put yourself into one or two of those boxes. So
Yeah. Oh, that sounds really great. And you have a workshop coming up, right? You said?
I do. It's called Author Planning Day. And basically it's a 3-hour live workshop, and it's to help you build a roadmap that's going to help you to achieve the goals that you want for the new year, whether that's to write a book or whatever it is that you want to do. And I focus on 4 main areas. I like to call it vision, but some people prefer goals.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what we do is to help you focus on the goals that are going to make the biggest impact, identify those, as well as identify sort of what has stopped you from achieving goals in the past,
Mm-hmm.
because that tends to, set goals, but then there's that next step. So we work through that in the goals section. And then I dive into mindset, which is basically um, what I do is help you to identify what I like to call badass writer habits that you're actually going to need to achieve your goals. And then the third one is your books. I show you how you can map out your books from start to finish, the whole process, and also how you will launch them as well too. And the next thing, because I think sometimes when you're looking to say, I want to write a book,
Mm-hmm.
people often ask, well, how long does it really take? So what I do is take that question, I answer it, but take the question out of it as well too, in the sense that, okay, these are all the steps that you need to write the book from start to finish. And then you can set your own timeline. And then it kind of helps you to realistically see you personally, how much time is it really going to take you to walk through all of this? And
Right.
then that way it kind of, in some cases, I think it helps take the pressure off so you don't feel like, oh my gosh, I see people writing their book in 30 days or 90 days or this or a year or 2 years. It helps you to kind of develop your own way of writing your books, if that makes sense. And then the last one is what I like to call your plan or your roadmap, which is where we basically take all of those things and we actually map it out and how you're actually going to take the steps to achieve your goals. Because I know with me personally, that's always the biggest thing. I'm a planner all the way. I love planning, but then to actually achieve it, it takes,
Execute it. Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole different ballgame. So it's still an ongoing process for me. And, I'm always trying new and different ways of how to do it for myself. So I kind of incorporated, all the things that I've tried and all the things that have helped my clients to achieve their goals. And I put that into the workshop. So I'm really excited about it. It's actually the first time I've done this workshop. So I'm excited to see what the response is going to be and, what people are going to achieve. I love hearing about the success stories of authors and helping them to achieve what they want, because I know what it's like when you get actually whether it's you finish that book, your book is accepted by a publisher, that excitement, well, when
Yeah.
whether, even if you publish it yourself, just that joy and that excitement is just amazing. And I just love helping writers to have that experience and that feeling.
That's wonderful. And it also sounds like you really, with the goal setting, that you show people how there's success along the way. Like the success doesn't have to be the end result being published because that can take a while.
Yeah.
And that can really deter people from finishing a book or even starting it because, well, I got to write the whole thing and then I have to do this and then I know, and it's like,
Mhm.
oh, never mind. And then
Yes.
people put it off, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and that's sort of what I did for a long time until I
Mhm.
realized, well, if I really want to write a book, I'm the only one that can do it. I'm
Yeah.
the only one that has to learn how to do it. And
Yeah.
how long is that going to take? Well, I don't know because,
Yeah.
but does that really matter? Does it matter
Yeah.
how long it's going to take? I mean,
No.
sometimes it takes people a really long time. And like you said too, I think we can get caught up with, because there's what is it called? NaNoWriMo, which is
Yes.
National Novel Writing Month. or something,
Yes.
right? Something, and where people can write. I think the goal is to write a 50,000 word novel in a month, right? That's
Yes.
the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And some people participate in that and can do it. And
Yep.
I don't think I've ever participated in one just because that's not my it's not my style.
Yeah.
Like because of my kids and things that I had going on, that
Mm-hmm.
I dedicate certain amounts of time in the day. And like on the other podcast that I did with the writers panel, we were talking about that, how right now, because of all the
Mm-hmm.
things I've had going on, I really just focus on certain pockets of time. Whereas I
Mm-hmm.
used to, like 10 years ago, would sit down
Yeah.
and write for hours a day. And now that's just not, that is
Mm-hmm.
not where I'm at here or
Yeah.
anything else. And
Yeah.
that's okay. But I just
Yeah.
had to, let things evolve.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because one of the things that I discovered when I started writing full time was for the first couple of years, it was like sit down for hours, plug away. And I was writing my own books as well as doing freelance writing as well too. So I had all this stuff going on. I was like, great, I've got time to do it. And
Mm.
then I realized that it takes a whole different mindset when you're doing it full time and sitting for hours and hours and hours, especially if you're not used to that. And I got to the point where I almost burnt out from that.
Mm.
So that was interesting. And then I had to kind of backtrack and approach it a different way. So, and I think that that's kind of what happens with, I've seen clients where they're all excited and they're plugging away and then suddenly they lose the enthusiasm and they think that it's something wrong with them. And I try to encourage them to say, this is part of the process and that's okay. It's part of your process and your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're going to go through highs and lows. And, yeah, so I think that that's really important, that writers understand that as well too. Cause unless you're Nora Roberts, I love her. I think she's like the beast of publishing. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
She writes like four books a year minimum.
Yeah.
And she just has that down pat. And I know she has over the years, she's developed her process and she gives herself downtime and all that. For me, it's like I tried 4 books one year and I'm like, I am never doing that again. So because I had to
Yeah.
recognize that that is not me, that's not my process. And like you said, you just have to find your journey and the things that work for you. And if that means your book takes 2 years to write, it's great. If you need those deadlines and you want to write in a month because that fits you, it's all about finding what works for you.
Yeah, finding that balance, right? In your
Yeah.
own life, because
Yep.
everyone's lives are different. Everyone has
Mm-hmm.
different, and I think we look too much outside of ourselves, right? Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we should be like that person if we want to be
Yep.
successful, but
Yep.
their success is theirs.
Yep.
So I don't know that I could duplicate that for myself. Do I, because there are a lot of things that I've seen, not necessarily writing workshops, but where people are like, well, duplicate my process and you'll achieve success. And I
Oh,
would go,
yeah.
that makes me want to run away
Yes, exactly.
because
I
I
completely
can
agree with
take
you.
tools from that
Yeah.
and apply it, but I'm not sure that that always works for me. Whereas
I
someone else's process, because that's not mine. That's not me.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you on that one because I've done that. I've said, okay, this is it. They were successful at this. If I try this, it's going to work for me too. And then I suddenly realized, well, they're saying to do this. I don't feel comfortable with that, or that's just not me. And that's why even though I'm a very sort of outline structured kind of person, for me at the same time, when I'm dealing with my clients, I try to make sure that I remind them, this isn't me saying, here, this is my process, do it this way. This is me saying, hey, this is, a process that you can do. And these are tools that you can use to help you to develop your own process and your own journey. Because yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. And, when people say write every day, I'm like, that doesn't work for everybody. It's like, and to tell people in order to be a successful writer, you have to write every day is just not, it's just going to make them feel bad when they can't do that. You know what I mean? It's like I had a client who was trying to constantly wake up and do 5 a.m. every morning because that's something that I did. And I'm like, but you're not a morning person. It's like you're trying to fit yourself into a round hole into a square
Yeah.
peg. I
Yeah.
said, you got to find when are you most creative? When does it work for you? And for her, it was, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And, well, she worked for herself, so she was able to do that. And I said, great. work with that. So,
Yeah.
because I'm a morning person, I'm in bed fast asleep by 9:30, so there's no way I can write a book at night
Yeah.
anymore,
Yeah.
but, so I think that it's important that, writers are encouraged to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.